What's up, everybody? Welcome to Three Wide in the Middle with me, Thomas Brandon, flying solo again. Man, Keith just can't catch no breaks. So, just me right now, but that's okay, as we do still have some stuff to talk about here in the racing world with NASCAR on a much needed break, in my opinion. So, some dirt racing news to cover. Obviously, some silly season news with Corey LaJoie, and yeah, let's dive right in. All right, so first things first, I want to talk about this Corey LaJoie news that came out literally like the day after we did the pod last week, where Corey LaJoie announced that he will be parting ways with Spire Motorsports at the end of the 2024 season. LaJoie's been with Spire for the past 4 years. This is really interesting because if you remember, it was just a week before this happened where Rodney Childers was hired with Spire for 2025. I mean, announced that he was going to be the crew chief of the 7 car. And he had mentioned in his, statement, comment, that Corey LaJoie's name, like this wasn't, or I should say, this was a surprise in the sense that it looked like Childers was going to be paired with LaJoie. So what happened? I don't know. Obviously, not many people do know. I do think it's a bummer. Corey LaJoie is one of those guys that I will say, Corey LaJoie is a dying breed. And what I mean by that is you're not going to see too many people come up through racing like Corey LaJoie did. Those days are kind of gone, and racing has become such big business from a financial standpoint, and then you just look at like from a career standpoint, where you've got these kids now, they're in karts at 4 years old, but 5 years old is like you're behind. They're running late model stocks at 13. If they're a dirt driver, they're in 410 sprint cars at 14 years old, 13 years old. And they're trying to get into the truck series, by their 18th birthday, their cup, or truck in Xfinity. You know what I mean? Like that's the path. And they've got these driver development programs where you're part of the Toyota development, or you're in the Chevy pipeline or the Ford pipeline, and you're just groomed and brought up through the ranks, where LaJoie was one of those guys who came up, like, yeah, his dad, Randy LaJoie, had success in the Busch series back, the Xfinity series now. And his dad would, he tells stories of his dad basically giving him subpar equipment, making him work on the car. Like his dad kind of said, look, it's not going to be easy for you. It's going to be hard, and I'm going to make it even harder so you understand that. And LaJoie showed talent when he was coming up. There was a time when they were running, ARCA and those, the lower levels, where LaJoie was beating the Chase Elliott's and the Blank, like he was competing and beating those guys. But that was a long time ago, and he has not been doing that recently. And this year he needed to take a major step. And when you look at what his teammates have done this year, in particular Carson Hocevar, LaJoie just hasn't taken the step forward this season that he needed to, in my opinion. And obviously Spire thinks along those same lines. It's sad to see, because one of the reasons Spire is where they are today is because of Corey LaJoie. LaJoie was one of the guys that helped build that team. He went there when they were horrible, when, running 35th was a good thing. He was there when they started taking those steps forward. He was the one who got them their top 5 finishes. And, when it was restrictor plate racing, drafting tracks, right? He was somebody that you could think like, man, maybe this guy might pull off this huge upset win, and it didn't happen, but he came close. And there was this hope that he was going to take the next step this year after the massive amount of money that Spire has invested, and it just hasn't happened. And his teammate, like I said, has outran him constantly this year, and Spire's moving on. LaJoie is moving on. The question is where to, because there's not a whole lot of opportunities out there. There's not silly season's been going on for quite a while now. If you look at the moves that have been made, the Truex domino was obviously the biggest one. Truex retiring, that set pretty much everything in motion. When we found out Stewart-Haas was going away, we knew that there was going to be 4 drivers, right? Where are these guys going? Truex is going to retire, so Briscoe fills that seat. Michael McDowell is going to Spire Motorsports. You had Todd Gilliland. He's returning to front row on a multi-year deal. Then find out, hey, Haas is going to operate a one-car organization in the Cup Series, and then he's got the 2 in the Xfinity Series. With that, you're like, what's going to happen? I'm fairly certain that's going to continue to be in-house drivers. I don't think they're going to be bringing somebody in from the outside for what they've got going. Josh Berry goes to the Wood Brothers. Rodney Childers, like I said, that was a major domino, the biggest non-driver acquisition in silly season. He was supposed to be going, or he is going to the 7 car, but we don't know who the driver is going to be. And then Cole Custer is going to be going to the Cup factory team for Haas, which leaves the Xfinity Series. Like I said, it's going to be in-house. That's really it, right? So where could LaJoie end up? All those seats, we had this drop in terms of a team with Haas. They went from 4 to 3, or excuse me, they lost 3. They went from 4 to 1, losing 3. Now those 3 drivers found rides. Truex stepped away. He's retiring, so there was an open vacancy, got filled. Gragson going over to take McDowell's ride. McDowell was going to Spire. So where's this seat going to be at for Corey LaJoie? I don't see one. And that is a shame, because at 32 years old, it's sad now, but that used to be like rookie in NASCAR. If you were like younger than 30 and a rookie in NASCAR, you were considered young. Now, 32, you're like ancient. This is your prime. You're considered in your prime now, from like probably like 33, 34 to, 40. Those are like your prime years now, where you've got the youth, the physical built, ability, along with the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience. And LaJoie is right there, and he ain't got a ride. And it's sad to see. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I'm hoping he can find something. I do think the guy can drive. Unfortunately, he hasn't shown it this year, and we'll find out next year with that 7 car, which I can already tell you is probably going to be better than it is this year, just because of Rodney Childers. How good things can get for Spire, because they're spending a ton of money. And money does not always equal success on the track. It equals good equipment, but good equipment does not always equal success. Although it does seem to be trending more in that direction these days, especially in the Cup Series. All right, you guys, so let's dive into some dirt racing here. We had last weekend, first off, USAC Sprint Car Series kicked off Indiana Sprint Week, which I agree with Keith. Should be a national holiday. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year. I still love what I call non-wing sprint car racing. We don't really have USAC sprint car racing out here where, in California on the West Coast. Any type of sprint car racing we've got out here is going to be winged. And unfortunately, the non-wing sprint car racing is getting less and less and less. Really, you've got to go to like Indiana. Like there's only a couple of areas that really have it, and that's the predominant form of sprint car racing. Outside of that, it's basically wing racing. Now, wing racing has really taken over everything, which is sad because I love non-wing sprint cars. I love them. They're incredibly fun to watch. They put on a great show. And it's so far this week, Indiana Sprint Week has not disappointed. It's been amazing. Now, I told you guys I thought Justin Grant was going to get things turned around. He had a good start. He's been leading laps, but he keeps getting caught up in just these horrible wrecks, horrible luck. He has not been good this sprint week, in terms of the results. He just hasn't. Now, on the opposite side of that, Logan Seavey has been phenomenal. That guy just gets better and better. I don't know how it's possible for that dude to just do. I don't know how he does it. I really don't. The kid is so good. I say kid. He's not a kid, but he looks like one. You ever seen Logan Seavey? He looks like he might be 14. You know what I mean? Like he's not very big. He's got this little kind of like baby face on him. But dude, you put him behind the wheel of a midget, a USAC sprint car, or a Silver Crown car, and the dude is gonna be competing for wins. Like that's just all there is to it. And in the sprint cars, he's been dominant. Got the win at Lincoln Park to kick things off. Keep in mind, July 5th and 6th, he went back to back at Lincoln Park. Okay. So then sprint week happens, kicks off on the 26th at Lincoln Park. Seavey gets the win. Then Kokomo, Kyle Cummings gets the win. Kokomo was kind of a crazy race. There was some action, to say the least. It was a pretty good race though overall. I mean, the racing has been pretty good. Kokomo is one of my favorite tracks. It's just I just love Kokomo. Sprint cars, midgets, whatever. So Stevie kind of worked his way through the field at Kokomo, got up there, was trying to get there, trying to get around, and he went for it, didn't get it. Cummins got, maintained the lead there. Nice battle to the end, and, he gets the win. Congrats. I mean, that's awesome. So, nice to see, because after that, it was basically, once again, the Logan Seavey show. Seavey got the win at Lawrenceburg, which was postponed to the 30th, and then he also got the win at Circle City. Last night was Terre Haute Action Track. Mitchell Moles was, fast in qualifying. Really impressive run by Robert Ballou. Started like in the back and drove his way. Well, I don't think he was in the back. I think he started 11th or 12th or something like that. But he was literally running 4 wheels in the fluff. He wasn't on the cushion. He was beyond it. Like up just in the muck and just driving around everybody. It was incredible to watch, man. Ballou showed why he's such a fan favorite. I know I was pulling for the dude. It was awesome to see. Just him 4 wheels in the flow. I mean, he was beyond the hard line. Like he was just four wheels above the cushion, letting her eat, and it was a sight to see. But those guys aside, the Macho Man Brady Bacon is actually who got the win. He looked good last night. Bacon obviously is one of those guys. We've seen him run some more wing races this year, but he's still anytime he's in the non-wing sprint car, he's always one of the guys to beat. You can put him on your short list of drivers to win. And he showed it last night at Terre Haute. Now, tonight, we've got Bloomington, and then tomorrow night, yes, to wrap things up, they're going to be at Hopstadt. Hopstadt's one of my, I really like Hopstadt. It's a fun track in the non-wings to watch. It's just a really cool speedway. So I'm one of those guys, like, I always think like Speed Week or Midget Week should end at Kokomo. I just love that track. But if it can't be at Kokomo, I like Hopstadt. So yeah. So that's what we got going on in Sprint Week. You remember we talked about in last week's show, David Gravel's incredible week that he had, and he continued with that. Gravel goes out, and first off, night one of the Summer Nationals last weekend was pretty freaking cool. TJ Stutz, I want to make sure I get his name right. TJ Stutz got the win night one of the, Morgan Cup. Summer Nationals is what the C&D Rigging Summer Nationals. Then night number 2, Gravel goes out and does what he does best, gets the win. Gravel got his 100th win. Just, the dude's been incredible. What was really cool was Gravel didn't just get the win, but he beat some of the best drivers that have been at some of the best Williams Grove drivers over the last decade. So Donnie Schatz finished second, Brent Marks third, Darren Pittman, who is not an Outlaw regular anymore, like he doesn't run the Outlaws regularly, but Pittman's one of those guys that like every year he shows up for these big Williams Grove races, and he's always up front. He's always up front. And he was in the 69K car, which, let's be honest, how good does that car run with the Outlaws? It's always good at Williams Grove. Doesn't matter who's in it, right? Lance DeWeese, Darren Pittman, does not matter. They're up front when that car's at Williams Grove. And Gravel beat him. Flat out beat him. He has been on another level. We talked about it at Kings Royal. He went out, just put it on him, and he has continued that momentum. He really has. He got the win in Morgan Cup. He got the win at, what was it? Weed Sport. So Gravel's just been on another level, man. He just has been. And he's starting to really separate himself from the field when it comes to the championship. He is, let's look at the points here real quick. He's now 110 points ahead of Donnie Schatz. Carson Macedo's in third, Selzy fourth, and then the nerd assassin Buddy Kofoid in fifth. One of the things that I have definitely been impressed with over the last few races is Sheldon Haudenschild. We talked about his consistency or lack thereof consistency, because that's really the thing that's killed that team. He's got 7 wins on the season. He's the only driver on the tour with more wins than Sheldon is Gravel. But Sheldon also has these huge drop-offs where he just where they're just off, or where he's out there running in the top 5 and then something happens. They shred a right rear, or he flips the car, or they get into a wreck, or just whatever, right? So his last 7 or 8 races have been much better. They've been in the top 10, I think, like 6 of the last 7 or 7 of the last 8. It's been much more consistent. So he's now starting to finally get back up there and challenge. Schuhart, he's only about, it's like 15 points behind Schuhart for 6th position. Another interesting note, was Landon Crawley was knocked out of the top 10 with the outlaw points, as Craig Kinzer is now leapt over him. Crazy thing is that Kinzer's got out of the drivers in the top 10, he's got the least number of starts with only 27. Crawley's actually got 32 starts, which is 5 more than Kinzer. And then you've got Bill Rosen 12th, which I guess he's still considered an outlaw, but that I don't know. I mean, I guess I could be an outlaw next year if I buy the membership, right? I guess that's how it works. I don't know. Anyways, of the championship, to get back around here to gravel, the championship, in my opinion, is gravel's to lose. Now, that was what I said going into the season, and a lot of people were saying that, oh, well, gravel's going to win the championship because of Brad Sweet not being there. That's he's going to win this year, and it's not going to be the same. It's going to have an asterisk. Anybody who says that, you're an idiot. That's all there is to it. I got to tell you right now, I think gravel would be leading the points even if Sweet was still running with the Outlaws. Sweet has not been as good this year. He just hasn't. In these last couple weeks, there's been some issues with the KKR 49 car. There just has. They have not been consistent. Now, obviously, this is a championship team. They will get things figured out and back together, because even when Sweet's not running good, he's still consistent. The guy just is. But gravel has been on another level right now. I would have no problem arguing the fact that he has been the best sprint car driver in the country this year. He has, or I should say this season, because damn seasons go so long. But this season, he has just been on another level, and he's continued his ass whippings this last weekend. Now, Outlaws will head to this weekend. We've got the Ironman 55, which is really, really cool. It'll kick off tonight. This is one of my favorite events of the year. So we got the prelim night tonight, and then tomorrow night will be the Ironman 55 finale, leading up for next week's Knoxville Nationals. Now, keep in mind, next week, I was going to talk about this at the end, but we'll cover it now as well. Next week's pod, we're going to be doing our pod on Wednesday. It'll be going up Wednesday ahead of the Knoxville Nationals. It's going to be a special Knoxville Nationals preview. We'll probably be doing 2 pods next week. I got to get with Keith, see if he'll be able to do it, but I'll probably be doing 2 pods next week. Wednesday, we'll be doing a special Knoxville Nationals preview, and then we'll probably do our regular pod on, we'll probably do one again on Friday after the 2 prelim nights. So we could preview the finale. So we'll keep an eye out for next week for an extra pod. But anyways, that's what's going on with the Outlaws sprint car side. Now, late model side, last night's race got, I guess, postponed. The Thursday for the USA Nationals, that got postponed, moved to tonight. So tonight you've got the double features for the USA Nationals and the late models at Cedar Lake, and then tomorrow night will be the Crown Jewel finale on Saturday. This is actually another event that I really enjoy. I don't watch as much late model racing as I do sprint car racing, but I do enjoy it. I do really like it. I mean, last week's race at Prairie Dirt Classic. If you haven't seen late model racing before, watch that race. You will have a newfound respect for it. It's been really, really good. And the Outlaws have been putting on a really good show. So this week we've got the USA Nationals. Now, Lucas Oil late models, I can't remember. Yeah, so the Lucas Oil guys, they're off this weekend. Obviously, you got the USA Nationals. Next weekend, they'll be back 8th, 9th, and 10th for the North-South 100. I'm going to be completely honest. Ain't going to be paying too much attention to that since you've got the Knoxville Nationals. Not going to be watching the North-South 100. I'll watch the replay of it, but I'm not going to be watching it live. Knoxville is going to be where it's at for me. So That's what we got going on the dirt side of things. And when we get back, a little bit shorter pod this week, but when we get back, I got a couple of Ask 3 Wide questions that we'll get to. And yeah, so stick around. All right, so it's time for a little Ask 3 Wide. Like I said, this week's show going to be a little bit shorter just because NASCAR's off. And in my opinion, on a much needed break. I have the opinion that the NASCAR schedule should be shorter. They should have some weeks off here and there. This whole, race 20 weeks, have 1 week off, race 16 straight to the championship. I don't like that. I think less is more. I don't want to see an 18 game NFL schedule. I don't like 162 games in baseball or 82 in basketball. I just think it's too much. We've come to this point in society where all that matters is championships in all sports, right? Look, I mean, we were talking about David Gravel a little bit ago. Look at David Gravel. People talked about David Gravel like he was a bum because he hasn't won a World of Outlaws championship yet. It's so stupid. You look at somebody like Jack Hodenshield. Jack Hodenshield never won a World of Outlaws championship, but he is regarded and held in incredibly high esteem, which he should be because he is a legend, right? Like you look at Stevie Smith, in Pennsylvania, people literally will kiss the ground the man walks on. You'd never be like, dude, he never won a championship with the Outlaws. He sucks. But in today's world, that's why we look at everything. And with this whole championships or bust, like you have people who will talk about NASCAR drivers, right? Like people who literally think that Denny Hamlin sucks because he doesn't have a championship. Denny Hamlin is one of the best NASCAR drivers to ever live. Like period, point blank, end of story. There's no discussion about it. Denny Hamlin is one of the greats because he doesn't have a championship with this stupid formula, this playoff system that we have now, does not lessen what the man has accomplished. It doesn't. So to bring this back around, because as my way of ranting, I think less is more. If you have less, then it puts a bigger emphasis on those races that happen during the season. Now, NASCAR's never going to do that because when they do these TV packages, when they're selling off these rights, these media rights and whatnot, more is better because then they can say, hey, look, we've got 36 races a year. Boom. How much you want to give us for it? It's the same thing with the NFL. The NFL is the one that people love the NFL so much that they could keep increasing the schedule and people are still going to. Football has become so massive in this country because of betting, sports betting, fantasy football, daily fantasy. It's become huge. Baseball has really fallen off, which is sad because I loved baseball. I still love baseball, but it's just so far behind the other sports, especially in terms of popularity. It's a much slower game in the world that we live in today where we need action and things happen, and it's just not the same. And then the NBA, the regular season has basically become an exaggerated preseason. Nothing even matters in the regular season anymore. It's all about what do you do in the playoffs. You got guys who are just resting day in and day out because they're load management because they get ready for the playoffs. So it's stupid. And it sucks to see. And I think NASCAR could benefit from, a couple more schedule breaks. I'm not saying they need to be off every other week. Dude, just give the guys a break here and there. It would make things so much better. It really would. So anyways, shorter pod because of the NASCAR break. Like I said, much needed in my opinion. So anyways, moving on. We've got a couple of Ask 3 Wide questions. One of them is pertaining to Outlaws in High Limit. which we've actually talked about before, but this is a different type of question that this guy's asking. And then apparently some of you just liked hearing me rant about the whole online business coaching expert guru thing. I went off about that in last week's show, and I knew that was going to happen. That stuff makes me so angry. It makes me so mad. But I have it's not a similar question, but it's a different kind of question pertaining to online business and social media and all that stuff like that. So we'll dive into both of those. I'll get the racing one done first, so that way you know what's coming up next. But anyways, so this first one is by Gary G. Gary G. Okay, Gary G. So Gary G says, "Hey, Tommy, Keith, I wanted to ask you guys your thoughts on the World of Outlaws and High Limit Sprint Car Series. So far, it seems to be good, and I've heard you say that you love the fact that the Outlaws are running their championship races at time that the high limit what? I didn't really read through these, so hold on." He said, "I love." Okay, I get what he's saying here. So he's saying, "I love." Okay, that I love the fact because I talked about when the fact that the high limit guys can go run these crown jewel outlaw races. That's what he's referring to here. Okay, his wording was a little bit off here. So, okay, move past that. So my question is, do you think that this is a good thing and should continue in the years to come? And if so, what do you think that'll look like? Or do you think we will see it go by the wayside and fall out like the Gum Out series? Okay, so that's kind of a tongue twister there. Thanks, love the show, Gary G. All right, Gary G. That's the GG. Anyway, so like I said, I love the fact high limit, and keep in mind you said that the Outlaws did not schedule anything helping high limit. High limit saw the Outlaw schedule and said, "Look, we're not going to run on these events because these are crown jewel events." And what I mean by that is these are not just outlaw crown jewel events. These are sprint car crown jewel events. These are events that people from all over the country go to. Kings Royal, Knoxville Nationals. Even when you look at like the National Open at Williams Grove, you might not get as many people from California going to run the National Open as you do the Knoxville Nationals, but you do have people all around that area. When you talk about Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, a lot of people who are local or regional drivers who are going to go to Williams Grove to run the National Open because it's such a big event. It's the same thing with Knoxville Nationals, except people from all over the country go to Knoxville Nationals. I remember a guy that I raced outlaw karts with. His name was David Fowler. David Fowler, when he got into sprint cars at like 16, he started racing a 410 wing sprint car out here in California. And when he was like a rookie, I mean, he had been running sprint cars for maybe 6 months. They went and ran the Knoxville Nationals. I mean, I want to say it was his first year. It might have been his second year, but it was insane. The fact that they were just like, all right, we're going to go run Knoxville Nationals. It was crazy. I remember I was like, dude, that's nuts. There's, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. There was times when I was running outlaw karts that I would show up to huge events that I was never going to win, and I was running it to run it, right? But there's a big difference between, a 60 horsepower outlaw kart and a 410 sprint car at the Knoxville Nationals. So lots of people show up for these events all over the country, and you have a wide array of talent levels. We always see the cream rise at Knoxville, which is one of the reasons why it makes such a great event. But yes, I talked about it before. The fact that schedule or that high limit has that ability to say, hey, look, we're not running during these times. We're going to go run these outlaw races. They're not so much outlaw races as they are just sprint car crown jewels. Okay. So Yeah, the Outlaws didn't schedule it that way to help High Limit. High Limit scheduled their series that way so they can hit those. Now, to get your question, will this continue? How long will we see this go? What will it look like? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I really don't. From what I know so far, and I've got some, people that are in the know. From my understanding, things are going good in terms of High Limit. They are. The series seems to be doing well. They've got a ton of drivers. Obviously, they had it was 16 or something that signed up. Right now, when you look at their point series, if I pull this up real quick, remember they're gonna be doing a charter with the top 5 this year and then the next 5 drivers next year, which is a different way to pay out the same money. That's really important. We've talked about this before. This is not new money. It's the same money that they would be getting if they were on like an outlaw tour. So it's the tow money, the prize, all that stuff like that. It's the same money, just paid out a different way. Now, what's interesting about it is the ability to increase the value of that charter if there is a revenue split or share when they start doing streaming with, like if they could stream it, they get an offer from, Flow Racing to continue, or they get an offer from something, Flow Racing, obviously, huge part of High Limit, not just with the streaming, but with everything. Flow Racing obviously sponsors Kyle Larson. There's, all these different moving parts. So I personally think High Limit's not going away. I don't think it's going to go, the way of the Gum Out series, right? If you remember the Gum Out series. I do think it's sad that we lost the All-Stars, though. I do think that's sad. I liked the fact that there was a regional series that was more of a stepping stone to the Outlaws, because that's what the All-Stars were. Now, High Limit has become basically on par with the Outlaws. It's really just a matter of who you talk to, right? Like you look at somebody like a David Grabble or a Sheldon Haudenschild, right? To them, it's being an outlaw that matters to them, right? As a kid, I wanted to be an outlaw. That was everything to me. Where other guys are like, look, man, I think High Limit's going to have a better business model. I like the breaks in between. I can pick and choose where and when I want to run. I don't have the restrictions. I prefer High Limit, right? So it's just a matter of what these guys want. As long as they can stay on par in terms of money wise, I don't think you're going to see either of these go away. Now, there might come a day where Larson and Sweet are like, look, we don't want to do this anymore. We're hanging it up. We're retiring, and we're going to sell this. And, and then it gets sold and it gets changed into something else. That day is so far away. These guys are in their 30s. They're not, Kyle Larson's in his early 30s. Brad Sweet is 37. You know what I mean? He's like mid to late 30s. So these guys are not stopping anytime soon. They plan on being around the dirt racing scene a very long time. And as long as they're around, High Limit's going to be around. And I don't see it going anywhere even after they're not here anymore. So yeah, I don't think High Limit's going anywhere. I think it's going to be around for a long time. I think it's going to be a national tour on the sprint car side for a very long time. I think this is something that's going to be up there with the Outlaws for the remaining, for the foreseeable future, for many, many, many years. I don't think High Limit's going to fall off like the Gum Out series did. That was a totally different thing. Totally different thing. So, yeah, I actually think we're going to see High Limit increase their racing series. I do. I don't think we'll see them get into the late model space, just because when you look at the current late model climate in terms of racing series, you've got Lucas Oil and you've got the World of Outlaws. Both of those tours are pretty set. And when you start looking at the schedule and what they're putting up money-wise in the events and the way that those two already complement each other, I mean, you look at the number of outlaw drivers who run Lucas Oil events and vice versa when they've got these big crown jewels. This weekend, for example, USA Nationals. Just pay attention to how many Lucas Oil drivers are at the USA Nationals. And just like when we had at the Prairie Dirt Classic, right? You see Lucas Oil drivers at the PDC. And when you see, these guys, you'll see these outlaw guys at these big Lucas events, right? Like the North South 100. Just you'll see outlaw drivers there at that event. So that space is already crowded. I don't see High Limit adding a late model tour to their, repertoire, to their offerings. I wouldn't be surprised to see them offer maybe like a midget tour. I do think there's a possibility of that. And this is pure speculation on my part. I have not gotten any information or anything like that. But I know Kyle Larson's got a love for the midgets. A lot of these guys, as you look at who are these high limit sprint car guys, they all came from the midgets. They're all midget guys. I do think we could see High Limit offer something with the midgets in the future. Now, what would that look like? Well, we keep talking about how USAC is falling off. The USAC Midget Series is falling off so bad. It's gotten so bad. We talked about it before. Their schedule is abysmal. It's abysmal. It's gotten so small compared to what it used to be. It's just, and they've got these massive breaks in it. Now, the Extreme Outlaw Midget Series has obviously filled some of those gaps, but could High Limit do something in the future? Maybe. Maybe they could. I think it would be cool to see if High Limit could bring midget racing to a point where you increase the payouts and you could start attracting those drivers. I'm going to tell you right now, if High Limit could put together a midget series where they started doing payouts on par with the sprint cars, when I say sprint cars, I'm talking wing sprint cars. So you look at we talk about the standard payouts, right? Remember we said for years it was 10,000 to win, 1,000 to start, and how that needed to be increased. And now it's 12.5 to win, 12.50 to start. If they could get the midgets up to that level, not even to 12.5, but if they could get the midgets just to 10 grand, 10 grand to win, 1,000 to start, you would see a massive explosion in midget racing. You would. One of the reasons why people don't run them like they used to, why the series have really fallen off, is because they pay 5 grand to win. It's like 5 grand to win, 500 to start, 400 to start, or something like that. That's not a lot of money. It's why these USAC guys have to run, the top guys to make a living racing USAC. They've got to run all 3 series. They've got to run the midgets, the sprint cars, and the Silver Crown. If High Limit could bring a midget series that was done right and offered more money, I do think you could see. I do think that would be that. I think that would be interesting. I think that could be successful. I really do. I think the opportunity's there. I really do. They don't have to do, some massive 60 race midget schedule. That's not what they have to do. But if you look at the midget events right now, you've got a couple of really big ones where a lot of cars show up for them. And then you've got, these USAC races, or it's just, people don't watch midget racing like they used to, which is really sad because it's one of the best types of dirt racing out there. It really is. Now, it's become this developmental, stop for a lot of these drivers in these NASCAR pipelines, right? Or these manufacturer pipelines. You got these, the Toyota Racing Development drivers, when these guys are all going through the midgets, right? The Keith Coons' deal with Toyota and all this. Like it's big time business, big time money for those types of situations and teams. But for most people, to just go midget racing, even if you love midgets, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. Midget races are paying almost the same thing that they were paying back when I was running around on a USAC midget team. And Dude, that was literally 20 years ago. So, anyways, to answer your question, I don't think High Limit's going anywhere. It's not going to go the way of the Gum Out series. I can tell you that much. It's going to be around for a while. What will it look like? I think it's going to look pretty much the same as it looks now. I do think we might see them try to add some racing series in the future, but I think that's a ways away. I don't think we're going to see them unless they acquire something. That I should have said that before. Unless they acquire something, I could see High Limit working something out where they would potentially acquire the Lucas Oil late model series. Like, now, see, if they did something like that, then yes, they would have late models. But I don't see them starting a third series because that's just too much. It's oversaturation. Unless it was going to be like regional, right? Then, you know, they acquire like the Hunt for Front series, and then they keep it basically what it is, more of a regionalized series. You can't have 3 national late model tours. There's just not enough late. There's not. You might as well. That's the end of local racing. And as much as I love these national tours, these tracks can't survive without local racing. You've got to have the local series. You do. You can't. Everything cannot be a tour. It used to be track championships were a big deal. That track championships used to be a big deal. Like, if you won, when I was coming up, if you won the weekly championship at Silver Dollar Speedway in a 410 sprint car, that was a big deal. You were the Silver Dollar sprint car champion, right? Like, that was a big deal. That's not really the case anymore. Now it's looked at like, well, you're a track champion. Why aren't you on a tour? You know what I mean? And you can't have that. So, yeah, if they were to acquire Lucas Oil, I think you could see late models. Will that happen? I have no idea. Obviously, I have no clue. So it's going to be interesting to watch and see what they do over the coming years, because I would like to see them add some more stuff. Like I said, I would love to see a midget series. I really would, because I think they could do it right. I don't think anybody's doing midget series right now. I don't. And I do think there is a way to increase the payouts in the midgets if you can put on the correct events. I do believe that. You will get drivers who show up for it. Dirt guys will show up for a payday. That's all. That you need to know that. You need to know that. They will show up for a payday. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. Thank you very much for the email, Gary G. And yeah, we'll continue rolling. All right. So, last up, if you guys don't remember, last week I went on a rant about fake gurus and online coaches and stuff like that. I got an email asking me about online business, stuff like that. If you want to listen to it, you can go back and listen to it. I'm not going to start diving into it again. But it essentially brought up another topic. And so this guy, Andrew, sent me a email, and he asked me, "Hey, Tommy and Keith, enjoyed the show. Tommy, I loved your rant last week about the coaching and the fake gurus, but I wanted to ask you a serious question on social media and doing social media as a business. I've always wanted to start my own channel on YouTube, and I've wondered if should." Got a little tongue twister. "I wondered if I need and or should." Okay, I got a little mix up there. "I wondered if I need and or should do other channels at the same time. Instagram." Okay, so he's talking about Instagram and Facebook, Snapchat, all these other. Okay, so essentially he's asking, "Hey man, I want to do YouTube, and while I'm doing YouTube, should I be doing TikTok and all these other, Facebook and Twitter and all these other ones at the same time? Thanks. Love the show." All right. So here's the deal, man. The social media stuff, you got to understand, it's not the way that it seems. Okay? It's so I trying to figure out a way to word this without sounding like a hypocrite. I have what I would consider a successful YouTube channel. And you got to keep in mind that success is varying. all right, when you look at YouTube. If you have a YouTube channel like I've got, right? My YouTube channel is tied specifically to sim racing and more specifically to iRacing. I don't do any other form of sim racing on that channel. I do iRacing. That's it. That's all I do on that channel. Now, I could, if I wanted to branch out more, if I wanted to try to grow that channel, I could start doing Assetto Corsa Competizione. I could get into other sims, right? Automobilista, Race Room, like all these different ones. I could start doing all those. And I could go the Jimmy Broadbent route where I'm doing all these different sim racing titles and really broaden my audience to increase my subscribers and followers and all that stuff like that. The the problem with that is I have no desire to do that, one. And two, the YouTube channel that I have was started to help people on iRacing. That's why I started it. Well, actually, I started it with my son. Initially, we were going to be doing gaming videos on it, and then this he got in trouble, got his Xbox taken away before we ever had a video put up. And then I started doing iRacing. I noticed people needed help with sprint cars, setups, and stuff like that. And so I did these videos. Essentially, they were just going to be on the channel just as a way to kind of like kick off the channel. I did these videos on how to set up your sprint car in iRacing, and I titled the playlist School of Sim Racing. That was how the whole thing got started. And I had people, the videos kind of blew up within the, a little iRacing community. And I had people start asking me, how do I sign up for your school? And I was like, I don't have a school. That's the name of the playlist. Well, COVID happens. We get locked down. I end up doing these trainings for free. People come, and then, 5-6 months later, I've got a business, right? That YouTube channel became what it is because I was helping people on iRacing. And so that's the purpose of that channel. I'm not going to repurpose it. I'm not going to change it. I don't want to expand it or anything like that. Yes, there might come a day where I do other sim racing stuff on it, but for the most part, that channel's there for iRacing. So if you look at that channel, right, and you consider the fact that there's a couple 100,000 people on iRacing, if you actually look at the people who are, consider like actually active on iRacing, consistently, you're looking at maybe 100,000 people. And when you consider the fact that I've got, I don't know, 11,000, 12,000, I can't know the exact number. It's like, I think it's like 11,000 right now on that channel subscribed. That's successful, right? You're talking about 10%, like that's successful. And that channel has helped me build my business, which I make a living doing. I mean, this podcast, I started talking about racing. This podcast was created because I started doing so much more real life racing stuff because of the sim racing that it was like, I was like, I had a podcast before where I talked about other things. And it was like, I'll start talking about racing just for fun. Give me a reason to follow more racing series. And then I'll talk about it. So it all kind of branched from that. And having a YouTube channel, there's a lot of people be like, oh, it's too hard nowadays. It's too much. You can't do it. That's bull. You can do it. It does not matter, because no matter what it is that you want to do, there are people out there that want to find it, want to see it, want to watch it. Okay. Now, if you are going to, if your goal is to be like, I want to be the next whoever, right? I want to be the next 10 million subscribers, the next Mark Rober or Mr. Beast. And when I say that, I'm talking about their numbers, right? 10 million, 50 million subscribers. That's what I want to do. I want to make YouTube videos for a living. Well, understand that's a lot of work and you have to put in a lot of time. And having these other channels can help, but ultimately that's not what's going to really grow your YouTube channel. It's the same thing with everything, man. Is your stuff good? Does it provide value? It's really simple. It is. It's not hard. I know there's people out there who will, dude, I just saw ads for it a couple days ago on YouTube. These guys who were claiming to provide YouTube success. Come take their course, and they'll teach you how to go from 1 to 100,000 subscribers in 6 months. That is such bullshit. There's no trick. If you go from 1 to 100,000 subscribers in 6 months, it's got nothing to do with some trick. It's got to do with the fact that you are putting out incredibly good content or incredibly valuable content that people want. That's it. That's all there is to it, man. And it doesn't matter what it is. My son, who's 11, he wants to be a YouTuber, right? Or he wants to do YouTube, okay? I have told him that we will do a channel for him. One of the reasons I haven't done it, though, aside from me just not having really the time to help him with it, is the fact that I don't want him on it right now. I don't want him to be one of those kids that's out there. His life is on YouTube, a camera following him around all the time, recording every single thing that happens so he can, have a YouTube channel, right? I don't want to be one of those dads who, and I'm not saying that parents are exploiting their kids, but you hear about this all the time, these horrible stories where these kids are doing all these videos and the parents are just putting them in everything. Their whole life is on tape. As somebody who, for my business, should have more of a social media presence, one of the reasons I don't do more stuff is because, to me, if you're posting everything on social media and you're just, and I'm not saying like, hey, good time with my friends, selfie, click, love today. Like, I'm not talking about stuff like that. I'm talking about these people who are just on social media all the time. It's what they do. Everything they do is on social media, right? You know what they had for lunch. You know where they got their shoes today. You know what friends they saw. You know what time they went to bed, what time they woke up. Everything they did, because that's all they do is post it. It's just crap on social media all day long. If you do that, to me, you're missing the best parts of life. I don't need to share my experience in life with every single person to make it valuable. And what I mean by that is last week, for example, my son got to ride. I taught him how to ride a dirt bike, a clutch dirt bike. He had ridden a little 50 before, but he had never really, and he only rode a couple laps on that. So he had never really ridden a dirt bike before. I taught him how to ride a Honda CRF 50, right? Or not a 50, a Honda CRF 80. Got a manual, clutch on it, got to shift the gears, all that stuff. He had never learned that stuff. I taught him how to do that. Yes, I could have made a video out of that and probably gotten a ton of views, but I enjoyed it way more because I was in the moment enjoying that with my son. You understand what I mean? Like, those moments, the enjoyment factor is less when you're worried about, how am I going to capture this? How am I going to post this? How am I going to edit this? How am I going to make this to where people want to see it, right? When that's what don't do that. All right. If you want to do a YouTube channel, okay, do it. And whatever it's about, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be how to whittle wood. It does not matter, right? The old underwater basket weaving, right? It doesn't matter. Do that if that's what you want to do. And if your goal is to be successful, then do it to the best of your abilities that you can. But don't get caught up in posting and showing every single aspect of your life constantly on social media, because, dude, it's exhausting. You don't want to do that. You really don't, man. I've tried it. Because I thought that's what I had to do to be successful. Once again, it's crap I was told by these experts, right? You don't have to. That's such BS. It's such a lie, man. It really is. You don't have to do that. Enjoy the aspects of your life that are your life. Like I mentioned, my son, he wants to, he got this dirt bike that a friend of ours, Kyle, loaned us so my son can ride it. One of the coolest things that anybody could ever do. And my son wants to, he rode it, and he's always said for the last couple of years that he wanted to learn how to ride a dirt bike. He wants to race motocross. That's what he wants to do. He wants to race. He would like to race outlaw karts like I did, but dude, those things are just so expensive. They're crazy expensive. And so he's also said that he wants to race motocross. Motocross is something that we could potentially do just because the barrier for entry is much lower. You just need a dirt bike, right? You just need a dirt bike. Now, if he's going to be competitive, where he's running up front with these guys and super fast, yes, he needs a good dirt bike. But to begin, you just need a dirt bike. You're just going to be out there on the track, right? Racing. You know what I mean? So we just got to be able to get him to ride at that level. One of the things that I've thought about doing with him, because he wants to have a channel, is getting a bike for myself, just go out and getting a used bike, like a 125 or something like that, and riding with him. And then teaching him the basics of motocross, and then he can go out and learn the rest. And then recording that. And then having a little channel that would be essentially his, but I would do it with him. Because like I said, I don't want my son just exposed to the onslaught of that crap nonstop. But doing like a once a week thing at the track type of thing, and then you could do educational stuff on there where you teach kids the basics of the maintenance and the mechanics. And there's all kinds of other channels out there like that already. But like I said, my son wants to do it. This would be a way to get him into it. And it's not going to be super, invasive, right? We'll still have those moments where it's just father son, where it's just me enjoying being with my son and not having to put that on, like that. That's something that I'm thinking about doing. My goal with that is to enjoy it and have fun and do something with my son. If it becomes big, sweet. If it doesn't, who cares, right? So when you look at like doing a YouTube channel, you want to really figure out what it is you're trying to accomplish with it. And then just do that. Just do the YouTube stuff. Like I said, you can have other social medias and share those YouTube videos or make little comments that lead back to it. But dude, don't think that you need to be like posting, like you got to be on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, and you're doing all this stuff and being everywhere at once and posting a video on YouTube and a short, and then everything goes back to you don't have to do all that. It's exhausting. You don't need to do it. And like I said, when everything in life is about how can I turn this into a social media post, dude, you lose the enjoyment of just being in the moment and experiencing that moment. You do. And take it from me, because like I said, I tried it. I did it, and it sucks. So no, if you want to do YouTube, man, just do YouTube. And then you can have a couple other channels where like I said, you share those YouTube videos and stuff like that. But don't think that you have to do that. If there's somebody out there telling you they're wrong. I've noticed that 99% of the people who give advice on how to be successful on YouTube or Instagram or any of that stuff, I've noticed that they're wrong. The vast majority of them are wrong. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They've never been successful on it in their lives. They've either took a training course or read a book or they're just regurgitating something they learned from somebody else. Okay, so don't think you need to do that. You want to do YouTube, do it, have fun with it, enjoy it. And in the beginning, you're going to suck at it. That's okay. Everybody does. And you'll get better as you go along. And if it blows up, it blows up, man. But don't think you need to be doing TikTok and everything else, all this other crap, and just creating content nonstop, walking around with your family. I don't know if you have a family, but just walking around all day, every day with a camera, catching every aspect in case in case something great happens that could go viral. Don't do that, because then you miss out on living in the moment, and that's a hard enough thing for people as it is. All right, you guys. So that's going to do it. That's going to wrap up today's show. We covered some racing stuff, and then obviously we had a couple Ask 3 Wides. But these days where I'm by myself, these questions that come in, it's a good time to answer those. Now, last week's one, I told you that I had been sitting on that one for a few weeks, and then that kind of spurred on this week's question. But regardless, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll be back next week. Now, like I said, next week we've got the Knoxville Nationals. And so keep an eye out for I want to do a Knoxville Nationals preview. I do. And so I'm hoping that I can get that done. So keep an eye out on that. We might do that on the YouTube. Maybe I'll do a video on that on the YouTube channel. So I don't know. We'll see. But keep an eye out on that. We will get that posted before the Knoxville Nationals. So before it kicks off. And then, like I said, we'll maybe do one like a Friday after the prelim nights or something. So keep an eye out that we might have 2 shows next week. But thank you guys very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. The numbers have been going up, which is awesome. The fact that more and more people are downloading and sharing this show is just really, really cool, man. I cannot thank you enough for it, because like me and Keith have said before, it's just two guys talking racing. We just have fun talking about this stuff. And it's yeah, it's cool to see people enjoying it. So thank you guys very much for that. Keep an eye out for 2 episodes next week. And yeah, until then, enjoy your weekend. Try to stay cool out there if you can. And until next time, take care.